Welcome back. Michael Snyder is our resident film critic. Get Hard.
Rob Schneider, yes, that Rob Schneider, made a film that is actually my favorite of his films called Big Stan, about a real estate ripoff artist, a con man, who is basically arrested and convicted and sentenced to jail. And he's going to be in for a few years, and he's a little guy, so he's afraid he's going to have to deal with sexual assault. So, as hard as his lawyer, played by Emmett Walsh, of all people, as hard as that guy tries, he knows that Rob's character is still going to the old Gray Bar Hotel. So what he does is Rob's character finds a guru and a martial arts expert, played by David Carradine in one of his last roles, to teach him how to survive in prison. And I actually was very entertained by the movie. I thought it was kind of well done, and it had a lot of heart, believe it or not, as the character goes to jail and basically kind of turns the place around in the face of a corrupt warden, played, by the way, by the great Scott Wilson. Get Hard is essentially the same premise. Will Ferrell plays, in this case, an investment banker who basically, sent up the river and maybe shouldn't have been. And he's going to face life in prison and is afraid for his tuchus. So, a black guy, played by Kevin Hart, popular comedian and film star of, some repute and some degree of talent. This guy washes his car, and he assumes that because he's sort of a working-class black guy, he's been to prison, so he hires him to teach him how to survive prison life. And there's a lot of homosexual panic stuff going on. There's a lot of heavy stereotyping. I really thought it was a miss. And there are some kind of fitful, inadvertent laughs, I will admit, to succumbing to them. But Get Hard was not funny enough in any way, shape, or form, and certainly the idea not original. The only difference is instead of, Mr. Kung Fu, David Carradine, who was very funny, parodying his own image, you get the motor mouth, loud, and annoying Kevin Hart, who, to his credit, he plays a guy who actually is a decent guy who is sort of railroaded into helping the Farrell character. Just not a very good film. Get Hard, get lost.
While We're Young.
Well, an unlikely friendship develops between two sets of couples in While We're Young, one of my favorite films of 2015 so far. It's a cross-generational comedy of manners about getting older, dealing with career and relationship frustration, the wages of ambition, if you will, and the price of success. And it's directed by Noah Baumbach, who did The Squid and the Whale, and it really rung a bell in me for some reason. It resonated. Stiller is married to Naomi Watts' character. They're aging, already New Yorkers. They're childless. Their relationship is in a rut. Driver, who you might know from Girls on HBO, and also he's going to be in the new Star Wars film. He and Amanda Seyfried from Mamma Mia and other movies, they're the young, kind of feckless Brooklyn hipsters. They're kind of carefree and full of the vitality and energy and like arrogance of youth. And the couples could basically choke on their own pretensions. But they meet, become attached, and it's to the discomfort of the 40-somethings, baby-crazy peers who think, well, what are our friends doing running around with these young people? Anyway, so Stiller's character is a struggling, once briefly successful documentary movie maker whose father-in-law is played by Charles Grodin, and the father-in-law is a very successful, very renowned award winner of a documentary movie maker who intimidates and infuriates his son-in-law. And Driver's character aspires to be like a great filmmaker as well, and he professes to be Josh's biggest fan, and clearly there's an agenda. But I thought this was really witty and kind of uncomfortable fun, And unlike the previous movie by Baumbach, Frances Ha, which had Greta Gerwig starring as kind of an aimless, moderately bright New York hipster girl who stumbles through life, this is much deeper, more multi-layered, and about people with more on the line and with time slipping away from them. So, I found it more moving, and it's still very, very funny and very, very engaging.
Serena
is kind of a disappointment, especially considering the talent involved. It's basically a period drama about a newlywed couple who begin to put together this timber empire, and it's set in the late 20s, and it's beautifully shot, well cast and well acted. And you've got Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper. They were co-stars in Silver Linings Playbook, very well acted. And in fact, Jennifer Lawrence has such beauty and grace. She's just bursting with life and energy, and then you see the darkness beneath. She's a very talented actress. A little knee-jerk in the third act here, and it's directed by a member of the Danish Dogme Collective, Suzanne Bier, who has won an Oscar with the Foreign Film Oscar in A Better World recently, and it's my least favorite of her films, but it certainly is a beautiful thing to watch, and it's great to watch the actors.
The Riot Club.
Based on a play called Posh, The Riot Club is a new film by Alane Scherfig, who is also Danish and part of the Dogma gang, and directed An Education, which I love. Nick Hornby's adaptation of the life story of the central character in that movie set in the 60s, a young girl's coming of age. Wonderful. This is a lot different. This is modern with a little prequel about life at Oxford back in the days of powdered wigs, when the ne'er-do-wells and hedonists amongst Oxford's wealthiest students create something called the Riot Club, where they think they can kind of get away with anything, any manner of overkill, any kind of drinking and eating till they burst. And what we have here is the updated version of the Riot Club, and it reminded me a lot of what we hear about the Skull and Bones at Yale, the Society of the Rich and Powerful. And this is kind of a pretty brutal indictment of these guys, and it's got a pretty solid cast, and it's nicely shot. They use the Oxford University campus, and three of my favorite British actresses are in this thing. Jessica Brown Finlay from Downton Abbey, also the lovely and talented Holiday Granger, who was in The Borgias, and Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones are the three main women in this, but Sam Claflin and Freddie Fox and Ali Alexander, all good young British actors. Douglas Booth, they just rock it, and I really thought the Riot Club was cool. And it came out in the UK a little while ago, and it's finally getting an American release. But if you get a chance, see it, and if it's not opening in your neighborhood, you can probably stream it pretty soon. I love that stuff.
White God.
White God, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it won a Certain Regard at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival. It's a movie from Hungary, and it's a remarkable and genre-bending Hungarian parable about the relationship between humans and animals. A young girl has a dog, and she's a kind of talented musician in her youth orchestra, and her father takes her under his wing for a bit. The parents are separated, and the dog gets on his nerves, so he dumps the dog, and then we follow the dog's odyssey through the city, and it's just amazing. It's just an amazing film as the dog goes from place to place and continually abused, and its personality changes. And it ends up being sort of like a pack leader. This is an amazing achievement. They used literally hundreds of dogs in this film, well cared for, as I understand, and there are some violent moments of dog-on-dog fighting that are actually just not really the case at all. They use fake blood, and the dogs are actually playing, so no one should worry. But this is exciting and brutal and fascinating as the little girl hopes to find the dog, and the dog is off on its own perilous odyssey. Really, really cool movie. White God, really loved it.
And finally, The Salt of the Earth.
Well, Wim Wenders, who has directed his share of fantastic films, movies that we all kind of, those of us in the critics' corner really admire, and I've thought the world of this guy. He's also done a number of interesting documentaries, and this one is about the life and work of a photojournalist named Sebastião Salgado, and he has actually chronicled some devastating and important moments in history. He was on the scene when the oil fields were aflame in Kuwait. He's shot film of disenfranchised poor people around the world, those Brazilian gold mines that are such astonishing and massive swells of humanity covered with filth, climbing down into pits. This guy is he's shot, distant tribal groups that have never seen white people before. This is the kind of stuff he's done. He hit a point in his life where he said, I'm done with this. And most recently, he's traveling the world to kind of create a record of wild flora and fauna and beautiful landscapes. And this basically traces his life as a photographer over the past 30, 40 years. And it's really a magnificent, magnificent film and beautiful to look at. The Salt of the Earth, highly recommended.
Well, as a member of the Writers Guild, which is my union, it takes care of me, I would be remiss in not pointing out that there's a movie called Salt of the Earth that was made in 1954 by the famed blacklisted writer and director Herbert J. Biberman. And Herbert J. Biberman was brought up before the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and he refused to name names. He's part of the Hollywood 10. They were the Hollywood writers who were blacklisted by the American film industry for refusing to testify. And if you join the Writers Guild of America, you have to sit, or at least when I joined, it's been decades, they make you sit and watch a documentary about the Hollywood 10, and you are regaled in the story of the making of the only blacklisted American film, Salt of the Earth. Came out March of 1954. It's based on an actual strike in New Mexico against the Empire Zinc Mine, and it's about union rights and the plight of Mexican Americans. It stars Will Geer. And
good old Will Geer from the Waltons.
Yeah. And I think, let me see, is it streaming now on Instant Prime, Amazon? Yes, it is. And I'm embarrassed to say that I've never seen it.
Well, you really should, from the sound of it. And speaking of Wim Wenders, you know, if you really want to get a taste of his work outside of the documentary thing, and this is beautiful, an equally beautiful film that's a narrative and very whimsical and inspired an American version is his film Wings of Desire, about an angel who comes to Earth and desires to be mortal again because he falls in love with a beautiful trapeze artist.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be a bother, but does that star Peter Falk?
Peter Falk does make an appearance as another angel in this movie, and you're absolutely right about that. It is a phenomenal film, and the guy who plays Hitler in all of those little videos we see where Hitler is given different subtitles, Bruno Ganz is the angel in Wings of Desire. So no little hairbrush mustache, no stomping and screaming as he did in Downfall, the movie from which those tantrums are culled. I mean, I've never seen anything go crazy viral in so many weird ways as the little Hitler tantrum from Downfall starring Bruno Ganz. But he's so good in Wings of Desire. Never want to underplay Wim Wenders' skill as a director. That's a fantastic film, and so is The Salt of the Earth.
Michael Snyder, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.